guess, first of all, could you kind of just give me some brief background where in the diocese you kind of grew up, and were you raised Catholic, or how that upbringing was for you?
Grew up in the diocese, grew up Catholic. So grew up around actually St. Philip Parish to start in Evansville on the west side there. We lived across the cornfield back behind the parish, and we'd go to Mass there Sundays, but then we drove all the way up to St. Wendell for school and went there from kindergarten through fourth grade. But between fourth and fifth grade, my family, we moved up to Jasper. And so that's when I started going to church at St. Joe's in Jasper, but went to school over at Holy Family Grade School over there. So yeah, really had a strong, I think, foundation in faith, and my mom, I think in a particular way, really was a model for that. And in my life, and we'd go to Mass every Sunday, of course, but then going to daily Mass sometimes during the week, and going to the Adoration Chapel, praying the Rosary together as a family. I remember vividly just going on the way to school in the morning, saying our prayers in the morning as we would go, just really that foundation of faith, I think, being there. And I mean, even to the point of, whenever me and my brothers would get in trouble for something and sent to our rooms, we'd be able to get out early if we read a chapter of a saint book, and kind of, learning that, life of virtue opposed to, beating each other up and that kind of thing as kids. So, really had that strong foundation growing up, and even as getting into high school, as I started to kind of live my faith more on, having the opportunity to serve at Mass and things like that, and that making I think an impact on me as well, all through my childhood formation. So.
You talk a little bit just about, as far as this, you met at seminary and all that, made that decision, kind of, was that a thing that was on your mind, like, growing up, or did that come later, just kind of when that you first really started to consider that?
Sure, yeah. I remember as early as second grade thinking about becoming a priest. I even have documentation, which I actually found this. It was when I was working up in Indianapolis, but helping my mom move. I think it was 2021, and helping her move, and went through this, all the stuff that you have whenever you're a kid, all the things you've collected over the years, and pull out a folder, and there's just stuff from second grade, and you have the sheet of kind of the get to know you on the early days in classes, and for the teacher, and you put your favorite color, favorite food, all that kind of stuff. And I remember, and I put there what I want to be when I grow up. I put a priest, and so definitely at a young age had really kind of considered that again as an option with the foundation and faith that I feel like I had in the home, and didn't really know what a priest did outside of say Mass on Sunday, and was around the parish and active, and came to like the picnics and things like that. But at that time, that was really the limited interaction I had with the priest. I just knew that it was important, and I loved Jesus, and I was like, that'd be maybe something I could do in the future as much as a child can. So definitely thought about it when I was young, but I think as I got into middle school and into high school, started dating some, and just was busy. So you get into middle school, high school, you got sports, you got I was very active in band and things like that. Once I get into high school, you have jobs and start dating and that kind of thing, and it all just kind of went to the background as I was living my life as a high schooler, and nobody really necessarily encouraged, I think, the vocation, and me, or really necessarily spoke up even that they saw the call in me. So I think because no one ever said anything, and I just hadn't thought of it for a while, I just kind of let it go to the back of my mind as I moved into high school, and just kind of thought marriage and family life was going to be the path for me, and continued going on to Purdue University and studied up there, and ended up doing civil engineering at Purdue, and came out of there with a degree. But it wasn't really until after my schooling, and until after I was actually working, that I had really was considering the priesthood again as an option. But.
And then you've been at Kenrick-Glennon, is that correct? Just kind of talk a little bit about your time there, and maybe some positives you've taken from your experience there.
Sure. So being at Kenrick the past 2 years following the propedeutic year in Evansville, but at Kenrick, really just great formation there. From, I think specifically they do a great job. I mean, intellectual and pastoral formation are really solid as well, but their human and spiritual formation, especially in the early years of formation, something that they really truly emphasize, and something that I really felt like I grew a lot in during my time at Kenrick. And yeah, as far as human formation goes, just continuing to work through some things with even like in counseling with having divorced parents and the different things that come up with that. And I think as well, one of the things I really struggled with coming into seminary was maybe just this feeling of inadequacy in my talents and my abilities. And I know I'm very gifted, but just like not feeling that confidence level, I think, in my ability to be a gift to others. That was something that's really grown a lot and really rooted in just beloved sonship and being the beloved son of the Father, and just seeing the way, really just like sitting in prayer and seeing the way that God looks upon me again and delights in me, and just knowing the way that He's made me is good, and just really resting in that, I think, for the and really learning how to do that well. And definitely started in my propedeutic stage, but really deepened and really having my gifts highlighted in a way at Kenrick in a way that I hadn't maybe allowed myself to see before. Just had been some obstacles in seeing that. So really seeing the fullness of that, and then really that flourishing and just in the day-to-day and the pastoral work that I was doing, and just a greater freedom to, I think, give of myself to others, not being kind of bound by these feelings of, I think, inadequacy that were kind of there coming in. So that was a great movement, I think, in the human formation, and a lot of people between my counselor, my spiritual director, my formators, they just did a great job of really kind of helping lift me up, those were, and seeing myself as the Father really truly sees me, and I think also during my time there and going through this year, one of the things I was really praying about, moving towards candidacy and wearing clerics and everything that comes with that, I think was really wanting from the Lord just like, I think a really stronger, I think, conviction and clarity moving into this next stage, both receiving candidacy, but also looking ahead to going to Rome and leaving the country, and just a big transition coming up. I really wanted to have just a little more, I think, certainty about the call. And not that I hadn't had any big moments of questioning. I think the call, I think I've been pretty confident in it and had a lot of peace throughout my time in seminary formation. But this year, just during my silent retreat this past January, had the opportunity to sit in silence with the Lord. And during that retreat, really praying with the passage from Mark's Gospel of Jesus, it's the feeding of the 5,000. So He's looking upon the crowds and seeing the crowds, and has pity or compassion upon them. And it was actually this reading in Matthew's Gospel for this past Sunday. But just the way that He looks upon the crowds, and having my gaze look at Jesus, knowing that the way that he looks in love upon me, but then He's looking upon the people, and just feeling this invitation to go and serve the people, and then really praying with entering into the feeding of the 5,000, and what that would look like as a priest, and during my time in prayer, meditating upon that passage, just really feeling just a great movement of, yes, Lord, this is what You're calling me to, and feeling His invitation in a much deeper way there. And I think with that, having the certainty of this is like absolutely moving forward, with, again, receiving candidacy, but then going to Rome, and just feeling a great confidence that I'm right where the Lord wants me to be. So that was a great gift this past year, and to serve in ministry with Him and have my heart really more conformed to His heart as I continue to, just with a greater resolve and resolution and commitment to formation over the next few years in Rome.
And I'm not sure exactly how it works, whether you ask for it, whether they come to you, but just kind of this whole experience of going to Rome, is that something that was on your radar? Has it been a surprise, just kind of?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like even as early as my propedeutic year, whenever I was living in it was in the House of Discernment for our first year of formation there, for the first propedeutic year. And I remember meeting with Father Tyler and him presenting it as a potential option for me to go over there. Part of that, I think, is just a practical thing. So that's Dylan had been asked to go over there that year, and really the next one to be able to move on to a major seminary was going to be, or and for theological studies was going to be me. So, and with the diocese wanting to have the ideal of having 2 guys at each seminary, and with Father Tyler Underhill coming back to the diocese, Dylan was over in Rome, alone. So part of it was just a practical, okay, we want to have another guy there. Would you be open to that? So even those conversations to some level were happening during my propedeutic year, but then it was really kind of coming into, and during my first year at Kenrick, we didn't talk about it a whole lot, but it was really during this second year over there, and this past fall, that the bishop just asked me he comes each semester to every seminary, and during our meeting, he asked me what I was thinking about for next year, and up to that point, I'd really, I think this year in particular, it was hard to think about, wanting, I think in some ways, the challenges of going to Rome. And so the Lord was kind of bringing these things up of the things I was going to struggle with. And I think in particular, my niece was just born last September, and then my nephew was born the March before that. So just looking at, I think being away from family, and especially being away from the niece and the nephew, and missing out on some of the elements of their young life, and being close to them there, was really just struggling with maybe the sacrifice of having to step away from that. But during that same day that the bishop came to visit and meet with me, the gospel that day was, "He who does not hate father or mother, sister or brother for my sake, cannot be my disciple." And I remember that kind of piercing my heart in that moment. But at that same time, kind of a great peace coming over it as the bishop, you're reading the gospel, but then the homily afterwards, and feeling him kind of speaking to me, and that just opening my heart of like, "Lord, if this is where you're asking me to go, I just want to give you an unconditional yes wherever it is." So really having a lot of peace after that point. But then we met later that day, and we said we'd keep the options open, but that was that fall. But then December, I met with Father Tyler, and he asked me again, and I said, "The Lord just keeps bringing Rome back up to my heart, and I think that's where he's asking me to go next." So just a lot more excitement starting around that time, and that's kind of continued throughout the spring here and into the summer as I prepare to go over there. But yeah, really looking forward to the opportunity. So.
Is there anything specifically you're looking forward to about it? I just wonder, it doesn't go too in detail, but just a little bit about that. I think, in particular, the things I'm looking forward to going over there, one of the first things I thought about is just the opportunity to pilgrimage, and I think be in touch with the history of the church in a way that you just can't be anywhere else. Being obviously from the United States, it's a younger church over here, but the few times that I've been over to Europe, just very struck by the old cathedrals in France, and being in Paris and seeing Notre Dame and seeing Chartres Cathedral there, and going to Mont Saint Michel, just getting to see the establishment, the brick and mortar almost of the church that's been around for 2,000 years, but just the beauty that's present there in those buildings, and the way that really lifts you up to God. So I'm excited to be in Rome and to be able to pilgrimage throughout Europe and see these beautiful churches, but even maybe more so than that is the opportunity to encounter the saints, I think, in a deeper way. And I was looking at when I was going to be getting over there, and it'll be on July 22nd, which is the feast for St. Mary Magdalene. And there's a church, a 7-minute walk away from the North American College over there, that has her left foot, and it's said to be the foot that entered the tomb of Jesus on Easter Sunday. So being able to go over there, and hopefully on that day being able to go to that church and to pray with St. Mary Magdalene, just a beautiful thought, and to be able to pray with so many different saints that are in Rome specifically, obviously St. Peter, St. Paul, and so many great saints, but then also be able to go and travel and see, and be able to encounter so many great saints throughout Europe, and really grow in my relationship with them, and then the hope, one day to come back to the diocese as a priest, and have if I'm preaching on a just a daily mass about a saint, being able to have maybe a specific story of my time being able to encounter that saint over in Europe those are just the idea of that gives me a lot of joy. So between that and then also just encountering the universal church, just in a very deep way,
that you can't anywhere else within Rome, and being close to the Holy Father over there, who was obviously an American Pope, and getting the chance to meet him, hopefully, it's a lot of just sense of almost wonder and awe at that. So just very excited.
And like we had talked about before, Father Underhill was there, and Seminarian Dylan is there too in the midst of it. So do you try to pick the brains of people who have been over there, or do you try to keep it fresh and an open mind? Just kind of what's your perspective as
Sure, I
you're
think
over there?
I definitely had conversations with both of them before finally, before the decision to go over there. I think just was very, very helpful to get their perspective on things and their own experience. Like I said, I think they've both shared with me that they've loved the time over there, and just everything they've gotten to experience. But yeah, I think I'd like to receive a little fuller picture, and Dylan would talk about his a couple of the different pilgrimage trips that he's been able to go on, and even his summer. I think his first year he was able to go to India with Father Sadaka, who was a priest in this diocese for a while before heading back to India. But getting to spend that summer with him in India was, I think, a great gift for Dylan, and he's able to serve with missionaries of charity over in Rome, and I think they're in the same monastery or building that maybe I think it's Pope St. Gregory the Great grew up in was the monastery that he lived in. I can't remember. It's one of the two, but even just things like that, again, it helps me to see, okay, this is just the great gift that it can be to go and to be formed over in Rome. So, and on top of that, you have the things like the great wine, gelato, pasta, pizza. I'm looking forward to those things to some level as well. I'm excited for I think everything it's going to bring. But those guys have really helped me see, okay, like this is something that's going to be really, really good and just a great gift. So
you mentioned some of the strides from being in seminary the last few years. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like those have gotten you to a place where you're maybe more prepared for this than you would have been maybe a couple years ago? For sure. And I even think about, seminary, I think, has been a huge benefit to me, but I think I may have struggled coming out of, there's guys that come right out of, their college seminary, and they're 22 years old, and they're going over to Rome. And I look at myself whenever I was graduating college as a 22-year-old and doing this, I think I would have been much more hesitant. But between, I think, a couple of years of working after graduating from college, and being a focused missionary for a year, and then having the seminary formation after that, I think more than anything, I've just learned to trust that God's got a plan, and the best thing I can do is just listen to where He's guiding me, listen to what He desires for me, and really following that plan with, just great confidence and trust, because He's always just led me to very good things, even amidst the struggles that have come as well. But I think more than anything in my time in seminary, and again even before that, just learning to trust God in a deeper way, and that gives me again great hope that no matter what comes with this transition, and learning a new language, and being learning a new culture, I think just the foundation that has been set, and just a deep trust. That's what has prepared me the most for the upcoming move. So.